Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Who is the best example of, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain? Fritz Haber. He discovered a way to synthesize ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen gas. What is crucial for fertilizers? He was also later employed by Germany during World War I to find a way to weaponize chlorine, thus becoming the father of chemical warfare after successfully doing so. Basically, he saved billions and killed millions. He won the Nobel Prize for the good phase of his life, and his wife committed suicide in despair at the second phase of his life. The day Haber was due to travel to the Eastern Front to use poison gas against the Russians, she shot herself in the chest. Her son found her the next morning alive but mortally wounded. Later the son also committed suicide. Haber was Jewish, but his company was confiscated by the Nazis and went on to make the gas used in Nazi death camps, which killed hundreds of his relatives. No one has ever gone from such highs to such lows. If he died in 1914, he would be remembered as the man whose invention allowed billions to live. The chlorine is 100% on him, but the death camp gas, he specifically developed it as an insecticide, with a foul-smelling chemical so that humans didn't accidentally poison themselves. The Nazi tweaked the formula to fit their nefarious needs. In peacetime, a scientist serves mankind. In war, he serves the fatherland. Fritz Haber. Scientists are just mages of the modern age. Marshal Philippe Pétain from France. WW1 hero after Battle of Verdun and WW2 head of the collaborationist regime of Vichy that helped the Nazis. Yeah, with Foch and Clemenceau he was revered in France, not only as the winner of Verdun, but also as the army reformer. He spearheaded military reforms which not only drastically improved soldier living conditions. He also pushed for a different military doctrine, especially in how to defend in case of attacks. Every general in the Entente who followed his recommendations saw incredible success during the 1918 German offensive, while every who didn't follow his recommendations saw their forces pushed back. And then in WW2 he became the textbook traitor and one, if not the most reviled man in French history, not only surrendering but also helping Nazi Germany in many ways that the Nazi didn't even ask for. Most notably sending more Jews to be killed than the German requested. But also helping Nazi Germany in many ways that the Nazi didn't even ask for. Most notably sending more Jews to be killed than the German requested. Although no small part of that reputation is using him as a lone scapegoat for policies a lot of them supported until the Americans showed up. Jim Jones. It is said that if he would have died in the 60s he would have been memorialized as a civil rights hero. He was the first to integrate churches in Indiana. He pressured local restaurants to allow African Americans to be able to eat there. He paid the bills of the poor. Many lived in his house. He adopted needy kids of various ethnicities. He opened soup kitchens in rough neighborhoods, no-cost nursing homes, and lived a modest life with little to his name to make it all happen. He also toured the evangelist circuits to making large sums of money, just about all of which went to support his poor congregation, of which there were thousands of members. After many years of this service, something happened: drugs, narcissism, paranoia, and wild ideologies that pushed him into a complete monster. He convinced about these poor people to follow him into a jungle to live out the communist fantasies, only to be murdered by Jim. 909 918 men, women, and children including Jim and his wife died by poisoning on a single day. Edit. Jim died by gunshot wounds. I only know his name for Jonestown. I had no idea about his life beforehand. I just thought he was a crazy cult leader. Thanks for sharing that. If you're a reader you have to read the book The Road to Jonestown. It's an incredibly detailed and enthralling read about the entire life of Jim Jones from birth to his descent into madness. It's very powerful and shocking the truly evil things he did even before Jonestown. Oscar Pistorius. From global inspiration after winning multiple gold medals running as a double amputee, to convicted wife murderer. Fun fact, he only started winning after getting his prosthetics adjusted to be longer, and then complained about this when he lost to someone else with longer fake legs. Probably always a bad guy behind it all from the start. He was insanely controlling of his previous girlfriend. This applies to a lot of examples in this thread. TBH. Celebs we just learned later were assholes. My dad. He was always against the Hoa in our neighborhood. Long story short, he wrote an apparently strong-worded letter about all the changes he would make, rules he would enforce, etc. There happened to be a vacancy up for grabs and he ended up as the president. Now he walks around the neighborhood bitching about everyone else's yards. In a thread liberally seasoned with serial rapists, masterminds of genocide and political psychos. This seems especially cruel. The absolute pettiness of Hoa disputes really puts this one in a different light. Benedict Arnold. He was possibly the Continental Army's best battlefield general, and he led the Americans to victory at the pivotal Battle of Saratoga, where he was wounded. Had he succumbed to his wounds, the Northeast U.S. likely would be covered with statues of the man. As it was, he stewed over the lack of recognition of his greatness and eventually sold out his country to the enemy. Now, his name is synonymous with treason. Hilariously enough, the man who took all the glory and recognition that Arnold deserved, and who intentionally slandered Arnold to avoid losing his position, was General Gates. Gates is most remembered for the time he tried to organize a conspiracy to remove Washington and replace him as head of the Continental Army. Benedict Arnold became a traitor due to resentment spawned from being sidelined and slandered by another traitor. Allen and Gates were so insufferable they turned Arnold into a villain.